But for the 7th year, leading global marketing communications company JWT has released its predictions on what will be ahead for us, what will take off actually in the year ahead, which is an extension of their top 10 consumer trends. And Jacqueline Smart will join us. And there are a whole list of things they're predicting, from the increased accessibility of advanced technology to yogurt shops as the latest foodie trends. And we can't wait to see which prove the most relevant. I think we sent you the list, and if you're anything like me, you won't understand some of the things on the list, which is why we're going to ask Jacqueline on. Anything interesting just to catch your eye before we do?
Number 54, media that gets to know you. Well, I found this fascinating. I did some work in a feature in this month's Metro article about the way that many websites now place cookies on your browser when you go to look at that website, and then follows you around as you bounce around the internet, reporting back to a centralized data service, and then works out from where you go who you are. So if you happen to be a 45-year-old Auckland man who's just sold a house and is interested in buying a car, you, like me, you could, they work out from which websites you go, what you're interested in, and then sell that advertising directly to, let's say, a car company. And it's a fascinating development in the world of advertising and media. And what it means, and a lot of people don't know this, that every time you bounce around the internet and you go to Mega Upload or whatever, you're being followed by as many as 150 cookies placed on your browser. And a lot of people don't know this, and an awful lot of information about your movements around the internet are being followed, and you're being profiled as you go, and that's part of this trend of media that gets to know you.
And we probably noticed that. How soon do you suspect before it gets to the stage where they say, Alan, well done on selling the house? Now, if you didn't go to the TAB quite so often, you might be able to afford this range of consumer goods.
Well, I'm sure Google's working on it. And it was already there in many cases. I noticed one particular guy I spoke to, he said he once searched for a camper van in Europe, and then for 6 months after that, wherever he went, Google was giving him ads for camper vans. A bit late, but this is a regular occurrence now for those people who are browsing, and they see this almost spooky type of advertising that seems to know exactly what they want to buy, which is all very clever, but of course
unnerving though.
Yeah, and you have to wonder. I mean, if the FBI and anyone can just grab data from Mega Upload at any point in time, what's to stop them from doing it from someone else? And there's a real issue around privacy and data collection that needs to be addressed here, and is being addressed by other governments, not New Zealand though.
Yeah, you've got to think though that whatever protocols they put up can be circumvented down the track. I mean, a skeptic would have that jaundiced view of all that, wouldn't?
Yeah, although people can clean out their cookies, and there are some browsers, Microsoft for example, that allows you to turn off the cookies. But there's an enormous amount of grief in Europe and the United States about how this is done, and real questions about the future of online advertising and these advertising networks using these technologies. Ali, anything before Jacqueline, anything that jumped out at you?
Well, sadly, when I went through, I highlighted a few, and most of them had to do with food and shopping. But other than that, there was something that I felt possibly was missing. I'd be keen to know what your expert has to say. There's been more and more being talked about with regards to smaller, sustainable housing. The Americans are doing it more and more. You know how people say for years can never get a deposit. You may have seen stuff in the media recently. They're buying these ridiculously small cabins, which would drive you mad. But the principle is to buy something you can afford, you pay for it outright, and you have it, and it does the job. Now there's this thing on telly where I always forget his name. I don't know why. Who's the man who does Grand Designs?
Thingy.
Kevin
McLeod.
Yeah,
so Kevin McLeod's building his own shed at the moment in some field in the UK. He's making his own glass out of sand. He's making glue out of rabbits' bones and so forth. I mean, it's really sustainability and recycling to the extreme. But I wonder if, and I don't know whether this is a reflection of what's happening in Christchurch with many people feeling as though they can and will start from scratch, I wonder if there's going to be a bit more of a turn towards that kind of lifestyle. I don't see anything on that kind of reflects that.
No, so I might not ask Jacqueline about that.
Oh, go on, Jim. Chuck her a curly one.
Jacqueline Smart is JWT's Director of Planning. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello.
Can you give us a general sense, though, of what is on the list before we go through a few items? It seems technocentric. Would that be fair?
I think it is. Well, it's actually it seems to be a bit of a game of two halves, because on the one hand there's this desire for technology and for advancements in smart, intelligent objects, and then on the other hand there's almost like the backlash of that, which is this need to have downtime, to become private and public spaces, to shut down, to be mindful, to avoid conspicuous consumption. So you'll always see with any trend, you'll see the new pattern emerging, but also the tension and the backlash and the reverse pattern, and that's kind of really interesting in itself, I guess, to look at.
The reaction and the opposite reaction, okay.
Yeah, and then you'll see also culturally there is a need for some, obviously around sustainable housing and so forth. Some countries that's really important, particularly in high density populations, but then in New Zealand perhaps it's more about the ability to have affordable, what we'd always held, dear to us as New Zealanders, which is to own our own chunk of land. Yeah. So now it's new ways of reframing what that might mean, or what home ownership might mean for us.
Okay, let's talk about a few interesting specifics then.
Okay.
And mindful living actually is one of the trends you've called, and that would seem to be supported by all the publicity that mindfulness is getting as a way of life, an advocated way of life. But there are intriguing headlines, and can we just go through a few of them? Ambushed, okay. Number 6, ambushed by Amazon. What do you mean?
Ambushed by Amazon, I guess, is this fear that retail and bricks and mortar shopping environments are going to be overtaken by this, the huge, big, mega kind of online dominance. And where it used to always be potentially about location, it's all about algorithm now. And it's pretty much about the fact that Amazon had spread out. They used to be a bit of a threat to booksellers, but they're fast outstripping and becoming enemy number one to retailers across all sorts of categories, not just book selling.
Okay.
And so I guess that's really what that's about.
All right, we understand that. Bee venom.
Oh, bee venom. Well, bee venom's a good one for New Zealand, because we're up 33% on sales and prices of bee venom over the past year, which would indicate that that's a trend that's going to benefit us. And it's like the natural Botox, really, and it's just the latest, I was going to say buzz product, but that's just too much of a bad pun. But it really is the new serum, and you'll see it's become quite mainstream. I think Kate Middleton, actually, she's the one that used this, so of course as soon as someone like that uses it, it's everywhere. But you can get it at farmers now, so I wouldn't hold too much stock in it.
Dads in the aisles, Jacqueline,
right.
What do you mean?
Well, this is a very interesting one, actually, and it's starting to be more important overseas and possibly in New Zealand, because we've always had a preoccupation with advertising to gender roles here. I don't know whether that's because there's this sort of girls can be one of the boys in New Zealand gender blender aspect of our culture, or whether we've just only got 4 million people. So if you harbour and go overtly to females and alienate males, you're in trouble anyway, or vice versa. Now, this dads in aisles doesn't mean I'm selling yogurt, male, masculine yogurt to men. It means that dads are potentially at home now looking after children, or both mums and dads are working, so this notion of a parent can't just be ascribed to a female. So it's about understanding that men have to cook and clean and do parent duties, and so they should, and it doesn't, disrespect females by making those assumptions, or also marginalise the role that men have in the home.
Trends for 2013 being called by JWT, and Jacqueline Smart is with us. The decline of Chinese bling.
Well, I'm not sure we ever were huge on Chinese bling in New Zealand, but what this is indicating is this understated need for luxury goods. So it's kind of like the logo on the inside, not overtly on the outside. And I mean, interesting again that 23% of Gucci's handbags for 2012 did not have the logo on them. So and I guess in China they're looking for sort of logo on underpants now rather than on the outside. And I guess it's less about brand boasting and that need to splash your cash around, really.
Okay. Some of the headlines seem horrific. Shopping hotels.
Well, that does sound horrific. That makes shopping sound like an endurance sport, really, doesn't it?
So you'll go and stay in a hotel. And
Well, you've got hotels coming into malls. Now, this is pretty much over in the United sort of Arab Emirate states. I don't think you'll find this in New Zealand, but it's big malls that are so huge that you actually need hotels in there so that you can kind of have a sleep and take a break, and then you get back into shopping. So
for goodness sake.
Marvellous.
For goodness sake.
It's not that different from the big casinos in America and places like that, where you have all these shopping malls with a casino attached and a big conference centre and a huge hotel. So
yeah, it is. Shop till you drop, and then you literally go to your hotel room.
Yeah.
Or and on the way you'll see a yogurt shop, because that's the last thing I'll ask you about. That's also a big trend this year, is it? Yogurt shops.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a big trend in New Zealand. One yogurt shop in Mission Bay doesn't a trend make, but boutique type shops. So you'll see we've got a great little milk bar that's opened up called Moustache in Auckland, and really what it is a change to healthy foods. And with the government legislation coming in and pressurising mainstream healthy eating, this probably what might be quite an important trend to look at across the board. And I guess actually really of more interest is fortified foods. So you can get yogurts in the UK that actually help you to sleep, and one in South America that helps you to tan.
Thank you, Jacqueline. This is fascinating information.
I've got lots more.
What was
a tanning
faux
yogurt.
Tanning yogurt.
A tanning
What was
yogurt.
faux meat, Jim? Faux meat. That sounds so revolting.
It is.
Faux meat?
Well, it's fake
Clayton's-
meat.
Clayton's
It's fake meat.
Yeah.
And that is attached to the sustainability, not of housing, but the sustainability, the fact that we just really can't keep generating food and manufacturing it in the way we have. So there's all sorts of things that have spun out of that, vertical farming and all sorts. But yeah, fake meat.
Okay. Jacqueline, thank you. And I don't even have time to ask you about JOMO, which is the joy of missing out.
Yeah, I'm big on JOMO. I'm quite happy to miss out these days.
Jacqueline Smart from JWT, Trends for 2013. What